Not every blessing comes from God. Some gifts smile at you in the daylight but stab you in the dark. This is not just Sandra's story. It is a lesson for anyone who has ever prayed for a quick miracle. What if the thing you are praying for is the very thing that will destroy you? Once upon a time, in the restless city of Lagos, there lived a woman called Sandra. She was in her late 20s, slim, with soft brown eyes that carried both tiredness and hope. Her skin, dark and smooth, told the story of a woman who spent her days in the heat of the sun, hustling, trying to make a better life. Sandra lived with her mother, Mimar, a woman with aching joints and fading eyes. Life had not been kind to them. Sandra's father had died suddenly years ago, and from that day, the weight of survival had fallen on Sandra and her mother's shoulders. Mimar sold Gary in front of their compound. She sat on a small stool with her old bowls and shouted when customers passed, even though her voice had grown weak. Many days she went home with nothing. Sandra hated seeing her mother suffer. Many nights, when they sat together on the mat eating their simple dinner of EBA and watery soup, Sandra would squeeze her mother's hand and say, "Mar, give me time. I will change this story. One day you will rest. One day you will not hawk again." Mimar would smile faintly, her tired eyes shining. "My daughter, God sees you. He will bless the work of your hands." Sandra nodded, but in her heart she worried. She had been hustling for years, and the breakthrough still had not come. Sandra's hustle was wigs. She ran a tiny shop in a crowded Lagos market. On her left was Mom Nkechi, who sold fabrics and shouted like a town crier, "Come and buy. Last price, I tell you." On her right was a cheerful shoe seller, who always joked with customers and called them by name. Sandra was different. She was quiet. She would sit behind her dusty glass shelves, fanning herself slowly with a small plastic fan. On the shelves sat wigs of different lengths, short bobs, long curls, braids. On her table were two old mannequins, their paint faded, their faces cracked. But sales were slow. Every day women walked past. Some stopped, asked for prices, and shook their heads. "Ah, too expensive." Others touched the wigs, admired them, and left. Sandra often returned home with little to show for her effort. At night she sometimes cried, "God, when will it be my turn? When will things change?" It was a hot afternoon, the sun blazing mercilessly, when a stranger appeared. Sandra was adjusting wigs on her old mannequins when she noticed a woman in a shiny wrapper standing at her table. The woman's presence was striking. Her wrapper glistened in the sun, tied neatly around her slim waist. Her head tie sat perfectly, her skin shimmered like oil, and her eyes, sharp, watchful, seemed to pierce Sandra's soul. "My dear," the woman said with a smile, her voice rich and smooth, "why are you using these dry-looking mannequins? No wonder your wigs are not selling. A beautiful wig needs a beautiful stand." Sandra laughed nervously. "Mama, one day I will change them. But for now, money never reach." The woman chuckled softly, as if she had been expecting that answer. "Take these," she said, bending to lift something from her bag. One by one, she placed 3 glossy mannequins on Sandra's table. They were unlike anything Sandra had ever seen. Their heads were smooth, polished, and shiny. Their eyes were glassy, almost alive, gleaming as though they carried secrets. Their lips were painted with a strange, permanent smile. Sandra gasped, "Ah, Mama, I cannot pay for these." The woman waved her hand. "No payment. They are a gift. Use them, and you will see favor." Sandra hesitated, staring at the mannequins. Something about them made her heart race. But the woman turned to leave. "Wait, Mama, what is your name?" Sandra asked. The woman only smiled, adjusted her wrapper, and walked into the crowd. Within seconds, she disappeared, as though the market had swallowed her. Sandra stared at the mannequins. Her palms were sweaty, but desperation pushed her forward. She picked the most expensive wig she owned, a long curly human hair, and placed it on the first glossy mannequin. Barely 5 minutes passed when 2 women stopped at her table. "How much for this wig?" one asked. Sandra mentioned the price, bracing herself for the usual bargaining. But to her shock, the woman simply counted the money and handed it over. No argument. Another customer quickly asked for the next wig Sandra placed on the mannequin. And just like that, it sold too. By the end of that day, Sandra had sold more wigs than she usually sold in a whole week. She sat on her stool, staring at the pile of money in her hands. She whispered to herself, "This is my season of favor." From that day, Sandra's life changed. Whenever she displayed a wig on one of the glossy mannequins, customers rushed to buy it. They never argued. They simply paid and left. Word spread quickly that Sandra's wigs were the best in the market. Within weeks, Sandra repainted her shop. She installed a big mirror and bright lights. The shop sparkled. Her wigs now looked like treasures displayed in a palace. Her mother was proud. "I told you, my daughter. One day, your season would come." Sandra even hired a salesgirl, BC, a sharp-tongued, bold young woman who loved to chat with customers. BC's loud laughter and sweet voice drew people in, while Sandra focused on arranging wigs. Money flowed. Sandra bought new clothes, new jewelry, even a small car. Neighbors who once ignored her now greeted her with respect. Some even whispered with envy. Sandra was living her dream. But slowly, quietly, signs began to appear. One morning, Sandra woke up and found clumps of hair on her pillow. Her heart raced, but she told herself it was stress. Days later, her skin began to dull. No matter how many creams she used, it lost its natural glow. She grew tired easily. Even after sleeping, her body felt heavy, as though she carried an invisible burden. At night, strange dreams haunted her. She dreamed of mannequins with glowing eyes, following her through dark alleys. She dreamed of voices calling her name, whispering promises and warnings. She woke up drenched in sweat, her heart pounding. Her mother noticed. "Sandra, you are not fine. You are shrinking. Your eyes look tired." Sandra forced a laugh. "Ma, I am okay. It is just the Lagos hustle." But she knew deep inside, something was wrong. Still, she couldn't stop using the mannequins. Whenever she tried to put them aside, customers demanded them. BC insisted, "Auntie, these mannequins are magic. They are the reason people are rushing us. We must use them every day." Sandra nodded, but fear tightened in her chest. She told herself, "It is just my season of favor. I must enjoy it." But in her heart she knew, no gift comes free. Sandra's shop sparkled, her life shined brighter than it ever had, but her body was slowly betraying her. Each morning she found more hair on her pillow. Her scalp, once full and thick, now had bald patches that she hid under wigs. Her skin grew pale, as if something deep inside her was being drained away. At first, she told herself it was normal, just the stress of success. But as weeks passed, her reflection in the mirror terrified her. Her lips trembled when she spoke, her hands shook when she lifted even light things, and her chest felt heavy with every breath. Yet every time she thought of locking up the shop, fear of losing her success tied her hands. Her mother, Mimar, noticed the changes. She watched Sandra drag her feet home each night, her eyes sunken and her skin dull. One evening, when Sandra slumped on the mat, Mimar sat beside her and held her hand. "My daughter," she said softly, "you are not well. Look at you. This money you are chasing, what will it profit you if it kills you?" Sandra forced a weak smile. "Mar, don't worry. Just stress. Things will balance soon." But Mimar shook her head. "Sandra, a blessing that destroys is not a blessing. Tell me, how did this sudden wealth come?" Sandra's throat tightened. She wanted to confess about the mannequins, but shame and fear sealed her lips. Instead, she looked away and whispered, "Mar, it is God's time." But deep inside, her heart trembled. That night, Sandra could not sleep. Her body ached all over. Around midnight, she heard whispers, soft, chilling voices floating through her room. "Pay the price, pay the price." Her eyes flew open. The room was dark, but the voices circled her like snakes. She pressed her palms to her ears. "Jesus, Jesus, Jesus!" she cried out. Slowly, the whispers faded, leaving her shivering in sweat. She didn't close her eyes again until dawn. The following Sunday, Mimar insisted Sandra come with her to church. "You cannot continue like this," she said firmly. Sandra dragged herself along, her body weak but her heart heavy. During the service, the pastor, a tall man with piercing eyes, suddenly paused mid-sermon. He scanned the crowd until his gaze fell on Sandra. "You," he said, pointing. "Stand up." Sandra's knees shook as she rose. The pastor's voice grew thunderous. "Young woman, you are carrying a gift that is not from God. Gift with chains. It looks like favor, but it is a trap. It has been given to you in exchange for your life." Gasps echoed around the church. Sandra's chest tightened. Tears blurred her eyes. "The one who gave it to you passed their burden to you," the pastor continued. "These things cannot be burned. They cannot be thrown away. The only way out is to give them to another person. But listen carefully. If you do, you are passing death to another soul. Do you want blood on your hands?" Sandra collapsed into tears. Her mother rushed to hold her, whispering prayers. The church filled with murmurs. The pastor prayed for her, but when Sandra asked, "Pastor, what should I do?" he shook his head sadly. "You must choose, daughter. To keep it and die slowly, or to give it away and live with guilt." That night, Sandra couldn't eat. She sat staring at the mannequins in the shop, their glossy eyes gleaming under the shop light. "If I pass them on, I will live," she thought. "But someone else will suffer as I am suffering." She turned to BC, who was busy laughing with a customer. For a moment, Sandra thought, if I leave them with her, maybe this burden will end for me. But her conscience stabbed her. She remembered the pastor's words. Could she watch another person wither away the way she was? Her heart screamed no. But her body, weak and aching, begged yes. BC had changed. The once polite salesgirl now rolled her eyes when Sandra gave instructions. She began to skim money, slipping extra notes into her bag. One evening, Sandra caught her. "BC, give me that money," she demanded. BC glared at her. "Auntie, don't act like customers come because of you. They come because of me. Talk, I laugh, I make them stay. Without me, this shop will not shine." Sandra's heart burned with anger, but her body was too weak to fight. She snatched the money and walked away, tears stinging her eyes. From that day, BC became bolder. She began whispering to customers behind Sandra's back, sometimes even pocketing wigs. Sandra's mother warned her. "This girl is trouble. Open your eyes." But Sandra barely had the strength to argue. By now, Sandra could barely climb the stairs at home. Her mother sometimes had to help her bathe. Neighbors whispered, "She is rich, but look at her body. Something is not right." Sandra avoided mirrors. Each time she looked, she saw a stranger staring back, bald, pale, fragile. Yet every morning, she still placed wigs on the glossy mannequins. And every day, customers rushed like bees to honey. She was trapped. The mannequins had given her success, but they were slowly burying her alive. One late evening, Sandra closed the shop and leaned against the wall, breathing heavily. Her chest ached, her legs shook. She looked at BC, who was humming happily while counting money. "BC," Sandra whispered weakly, "please help me close the shop." BC rolled her eyes. "Auntie, every day you are weak, weak, weak. If you cannot handle the shop, maybe you should leave it for those who can." Her words cut Sandra like a knife. Tears welled in her eyes. She turned away, pretending not to hear. That night, Sandra prayed like never before. "God, help me. I do not want to die, but I cannot give this curse to someone else. Show me a way." But heaven was silent. The end came faster than she expected. One morning, Sandra dragged herself to the market only to find her shop empty. The shelves were bare. The wigs were gone. Even the mannequins gone. Her heart stopped. She stumbled inside, searching desperately. BC. BC. But BC was gone too. Sandra fell to her knees in the empty shop. At first, she wept bitterly, her cries echoing in the hollow room. But then, slowly, something strange happened. A laugh escaped her lips, then another, until she was laughing and crying at the same time. Relief flooded her chest. The curse was gone. She had not given the mannequins away, yet they were gone. She knew at once. BC had stolen them. The burden had moved on without her hand. That night, for the first time in months, Sandra and her mother slept in peace. Far away from Sandra's relief, BC's laughter rang loud in another city. She had disappeared overnight, carrying wigs, money, and most importantly, the glossy mannequin. By the time Sandra and her mother sat down to eat their first peaceful meal, BC was already unpacking boxes in a new shop. Her shop was bigger, brighter. She painted the walls cream, hung golden lights, and set up glass shelves. She wanted to outshine everyone, to become the queen of wigs in her new town. At the center of the shop, she placed the glossy mannequin. Its eyes gleamed under the light, as if alive. BC stood proudly, hands on her hips. "Yes," she whispered. "This is my time." The first day was a miracle. Women crowded into her shop, admiring wigs, fighting over prices, but not bargaining. Whatever she placed on the mannequin, someone snatched it up. BC's eyes widened as money piled into her purse. Auntie Sandra did not know what she had. She was weak. I will use this thing well." Her laughter filled the shop as customers left satisfied. Bags swinging. Business exploded. Within weeks, BC was the talk of the town. Her shop was always full, her wigs always sold out. She walked through the streets with pride, her head held high, her wrists jingling with new bangles. But the mannequin's glossy eyes followed her everywhere. At first, BC ignored the little things. A sudden headache here, a patch of skin that looked pale there. But soon, her body began to whisper warnings. Her once thick braids started breaking off. Her skin dulled, her energy drained. She woke each morning more tired than when she slept. She told herself it was stress. Success is not easy. Small sickness is nothing. But the truth was creeping in the same way it had with Sandra. At night, the whispers came. "Pay the price, pay the price." BC tossed and turned, covering her ears. But the voices grew louder, circling her bed like invisible snakes. Meanwhile, back in Lagos, Sandra was slowly recovering. Without the mannequins, her shop was empty, but her soul was light. She had lost her wigs, her money, her salesgirl, but she had regained her peace. Her hair began to grow again, little tufts sprouting where bald patches once sat. Her skin gained a soft glow, her eyes found light again. She and her mother prayed every morning and every night, thanking God for deliverance. Sometimes Sandra thought of BC. She wondered if the girl knew what she had carried away. A shadow of guilt touched her heart, but she reminded herself, "I did not give it to her. She stole it with her own hands." In her new shop, BC stood before the mannequin, adjusting a wig. Sweat beaded her forehead though the fan blew. She stared into its glossy eyes. For a moment, it seemed to smile wider, its glassy gaze sinking deep into her soul. She shivered and turned away. "Nonsense. It is just a dummy." But in the corner of the shop, a shadow flickered. The customers kept coming. The money kept flowing. But BC's body grew weaker, her nights longer, her whispers louder. The curse had moved on. Sandra had learned, and now you must learn too. Not every gift is truly a gift. Some gifts come with hidden chains. Wealth that arrives too easily often collects its payment in secret. If success feels unnatural, if it feels like it came overnight without effort, look twice. Questions. Some gifts lift you up with one hand, while the other hand drags you down. Be careful what you accept in life. Work hard, trust God, and never be greedy for things that seem too easy. If you have not subscribed to my channel, you might not hear my voice again. But if you are, then you are growing every day. Check my page for more interesting stories. Thanks for watching.